Well, it was absolutely wrong.
Does it appear that these transactions were by the book?
No, not at all. I think that there's nothing by the book about this.
These backdoor deals are happening, and that's unbelievably disgusting.
It was all hush-hush, a scheme orchestrated by Albuquerque officials involving almost $250,000. Instead of using public money for the benefit of its citizens, City Hall doled out tax dollars to benefit a private business. How did they pull it off? Two things: dishonesty and deception. Exhibit A, this $236,000 custom-made, regulation-size indoor football sports field. It's an artificial turf playing surface designed exclusively for the Duke City Gladiators, a Rio Rancho-based, privately owned indoor football team. The field was bought by Albuquerque's Parks and Recreation Department. However, nobody there seems to know just who authorized the purchase. Dave Simon is the department director. Who at the city requested that appropriation?
Well, I had no knowledge of the request of the appropriation.
So if Parks and Rec did not authorize the purchase, then who did? A clue is buried in an email from a city fiscal manager handling payment details for the Gladiators field. Quote, "We are trying to get this going since it is a mayoral request." In 2021, lawmakers approved legislation to fund Albuquerque's project. This, too, is a deception. Even though $160,000 was earmarked for playing fields at recreational facilities in Albuquerque, legislative sponsors admit they knew the $160,000 would be used to buy the Gladiators a gridiron in Rio Rancho. Your understanding was that this field would be for the Duke City Gladiators.
Correct.
And then during last year's legislative session, lawmakers appropriated $325,000 to Albuquerque for improvements to an indoor arena. Now, this legislative grant was yet another deception. You see, Albuquerque does not own an indoor arena. Bill sponsors say they were lobbied for the funding by Gladiator owner Gina Prescorn-Thomas. Following the two legislative appropriations, Prescorn-Thomas and the Gladiators made campaign contributions to Bill sponsor Mo Maestas and Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller. Now, because the appropriations raised red flags, state finance officials ruled public money could not be used to benefit a private business, and they pulled the plug on the legislative funding. They wrote, quote, "The proposed expenditure to purchase artificial turf violates appropriation law." In early 2022, Albuquerque's Parks and Rec Department contracted with a firm to design and build the Gladiators an arena-sized artificial turf sports field. The $236,000 project included $7,900 for one Albuquerque logos, $3,600 for end zone lettering, and $4,500 for football lines. Documents show the order was rushed because the Gladiators wanted their new field in time for the home opener. In your opinion, has the administration been transparent and open as it relates to this purchase?
No.
And what is your message to the city of Albuquerque?
Clean up your act.
The point is we owe our citizens better. We owe our citizens transparency and honesty. That's the point.
Larry Barker, KRQE, News 13.
It was a neighborhood cat that lured Stella the Labradoodle into traffic in July.
I was like, oh my God, our dog just got hit.
The Albrecht family jumped into action.
We jumped in the car and started trying to get to the ER as fast as we could to try to save her life.
William Albrecht headed down 550 through Bernalillo from their Rio Rancho home toward the nearest 24-hour emergency vet. He spots a Bernalillo police cruiser.
So I imagined if he was going to pull me over for speeding, I'd pull over, he'd say something to me, and then maybe even help us get there. I've heard of stories like that before, but that didn't happen.
Driver, step out of the vehicle!
This is what did happen.
Face the away from me!
Lapel video shows Officer Jeremy Navarez put Albrecht at gunpoint, ordering him out of the car.
Step back! Step back!
Realizing what's happening,
My dog's gonna die!
Albrecht's wife starts recording on her cell phone.
Roll the window down, Remy. I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this. Like, why didn't someone just come check with us, find out what the reason our speeding was, and help us?
She and her son watch in disbelief
Step back, go to your left!
as Navarez directs Albrecht into traffic. Backup arrives, but they continue with a felony stop.
Get faster! Get on your knees!
Guns drawn. His wife and 16-year-old son now at gunpoint.
My dog's about to die!
Albrecht is handcuffed.
My dog's about to die!
I saw my son was sticking his hands out the window too, like, dude, our dog's gonna die.
Okay, come to me. My dog's gonna die.
And none of them seemed to even care at the moment at all.
Keep your hands, please! My neighbor hit my dog. That's my son and my wife. Stand up. Please, sir, my dog's about to die.
He's taken to the back of a patrol car.
Sir,
My dog's bleeding out of mouth. Okay.
Albrecht's wife tries to explain.
She's going to die. She got hit by a car. Look at his face, sir. Look, she's bleeding. Look at my dog. My dog is bleeding out of the face. And they're holding us on the side of the road.
No one came at him. No one threatened him. And again, like, what did he see that scared him so bad? I mean, this guy was angry.
The Albrecht saw just how angry watching the officers recording.
Are you kidding me?
So he's gonna complain.
They also heard Officer Navarez's explanation.
Well, yeah, so I did a felony stop on him because he wasn't stopping when he stopped. Once we found out his dog was injured and he was trying to get to veterinarian, we tried the idea and let him go if he's being
That guy shouldn't be a cop.
What was going through your head?
Just scared. Just calling my dad names and stuff. It's not right.
Police departments just need to really be serious about consequences when this type of thing happens. So in this specific case, I think these officers should be disciplined.
Gabrielle Burkhart, KRQE Investigates.
That's an ATF agent speaking with Marquez Martinez, who's in the back of a patrol car.
Essentially, we're here for the amount of guns that are coming in and out of this house, which you know about, and you're very much so involved in.
He's in handcuffs. She's read him his rights. Her fellow agents are searching his brother's house, where Martinez tells the agent he occasionally stays because he's currently homeless.
How many guns do you think that you've purchased in your lifetime, honestly?
Honestly, a lot.
A lot, the feds say, is, quote, hundreds since Martinez turned 21 years old. At the time of this interview, that's 4 years of firearms purchases. Court records show they located 13, an AK-47, shotguns, a revolver, several still in the box.
The discovery of that gun here at West Mesa High School in January 2023 helped the feds zero in on Martinez. They quickly learned he's been selling guns on social media, specifically through his Instagram stories. Take a look. Stories are temporary posts that disappear from a person's account after just 24 hours. The U.S. Attorney says the typical audience on that site is teenagers.
2 months since Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina announced his department launched an internal investigation into its own DWI officers.
I was not shocked that any of them resigned and that they weren't going to make a statement to us.
5 officers have resigned from APD, all targets of the internal affairs investigation, and all connected to a federal investigation we've learned surrounds accusations officers were getting paid to get DWI cases dismissed. Lieutenant Justin Hunt resigned in February after 24 years with the department. Honorio Alba resigned that same month after 10 years. This month, both Harvey Johnson and Nelson Ortiz resigned after serving a combined 18 years with APD. And the latest to resign just last week, Officer Joshua Montano. He's been with APD nearly 20 years. Each of the 5 officers turned in their badge before an internal affairs investigator could interview them about possible involvement in the corruption case. News 13 obtained a copy of Officer Montano's resignation letter, which states the issues I let myself get caught up in within the DWI unit were generational. In order for him to talk, he says he, quote, needed to not be the city's scapegoat for its own failures. He wrote, I take responsibility for my actions.
Politics are rough, and God put me in this position, and I'm in a good place in my life and in my career where I'm here to do the right thing, but it is, without a doubt, been probably the most challenging 3 months of my 29 years of law enforcement.
Gabrielle Burkhart, KRQE Investigates.
You ever experienced anything like this before?
Never. You know, in all my years with in state government, federal government, and local government, never. This is the first time.
It's an antiquated building hidden away in Albuquerque's Northwest Warehouse District. These World War II era corrugated steel Quonset huts house a museum the likes of which you have never seen. Welcome to the New Mexico Museum of Military History. Never heard of it? Well, that's because the privately owned museum collection is closed to the public. In fact, despite financial support from Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, the National Guard, and the state legislature, the Stealth Museum has no phone, no signs, no visiting hours, it's not listed in tourist brochures, and the door is always locked. Now, you would expect a military museum to look something like this, but this museum is different. Take a peek inside, and the first thing to hit you will be clutter and disarray. You see, this collection is less a museum and more a vast hodgepodge of military memorabilia. The core of the museum's collection are scores of vehicles that once saw service in far-flung places across the globe. Some are in working condition, some not. The assemblage is owned by a nonprofit group called the New Mexico Museum of Military History.
The World War II generation is all but gone.
Greg Hart serves on the museum board.
This is what they took and fought a war with. And we'd like to preserve it here in New Mexico for future generations.
State lawmakers chipped in $830,000, and the city of Rio Rancho offered to donate 5 acres of land for a museum complex. But those commitments turned into just another expensive government boondoggle. You see, the New Mexico Military History Museum was a project that could have been, but never was. In 2006, the legislature appropriated $100,000 for architects to design a 76,000 square foot museum complete with exhibit halls, storage areas, and a gift shop. However, after the organization failed to come up with $8 million to cover construction costs, the architectural plans were discarded. In fact, the Military History Museum has lost more than $700,000 in state appropriations because the nonprofit group could not meet New Mexico funding deadlines.
There was discussions within city government that they were completely out of compliance and that we needed to hold them accountable since they were not going to be able to comply, and it was pretty evident at that point in time. The decision was made giving them the 90-day notice that they had to vacate the property.
In January, the museum moved out and relocated its vast collection to private property.
This is very unusual. This is really, in my 5 years here, this is the first time that we've had to deal with an organization where we've actually evicted them.
What does the future look like for the New Mexico Museum of Military History?
There's a pretty black cloud over top of it right now.
Last week, the museum's board made it official. The nonprofit organization confirms it has decided to call it quits, disband, and transfer its entire historic military collection to another nonprofit, the New Mexico Wounded Warriors Project. Larry Barker, KRQE, News 13.